Hey, what's up, everybody? It is day one of the NFL. Well, not day one, but week one of the NFL season, Sunday, day one. And, we figured since this day's almost over, we'd spend some time looking ahead to week two and seeing if we can get ahead of any of the line movement. So, got Yanni with me from the Bet Crushers. Yanni, how's Sunday been?
It's been pretty good, man. Some pretty awesome games, and so far we're in the black with our bets, so we'll take it.
That's a good way to go. D, how's it been for you, man? You got the Eagles hat going, so
Pretty damn good day, yeah. So fly, Eagles, fly. It was not an easy victory, but they got it done, and they got the team total home. Didn't cover the spread, but at least they got the team total. But really fun day. Not a great day for kickers so far, right?
no, it has not been.
Not a good day for kickers. So
that is true. That is true. Well, hey, I thought we're going to spend most of our time looking ahead to lines for next week, but it's hard not to talk about this week when it just happened. So what's something like Yanni, what's something that stuck out to you today just watching the games that seemed important?
Well, I'll tell you what. First of all, I don't want to pat ourselves on the back too much, but I think when we did some of our preseason look-aheads and previews, we were pretty on the ball with a lot of this stuff when you look at week one. And again, it's only week one, so we can't say definitely, but I think that it's kind of the old Dennis Green. They are who we thought they were with a lot of these teams. A lot of these teams that we pinned as, hey, maybe they're going to regress a little bit. You talk about a Tennessee, you talk about an Arizona, you talk about some of those teams that we weren't high on. They struggled a little bit. And then, conversely, some of the teams that we did feel pretty good about, they look pretty good. But, I think what stuck out to me were a few things. On that same realm, Kansas City's not going anywhere. This is a good football team again. And despite the fact that their division is really, really good, they're just still really, really good. I mean, their offense didn't miss a beat without Tyreek Hill. They look as good as ever. And surprisingly, they looked really good defensively. So that stuck out to me. And the other piece that stuck out, but I don't want to read too much into it yet, is the Green Bay Packers. Your Vikings really throttled them. And the reason I don't want to get too far ahead here is we saw this with Green Bay a year ago. We've seen this with them before. But there's just a difference there, and we wondered how big of an impact Davante Adams would have. We saw it early in the game when Rodgers threw the most beautiful 50-yard ball he could throw right in the hands of Christian Watson, and it went right through his gloves. So, I mean, right there, we're like, okay, there's a difference here. So, I think when we look at some of those teams, Green Bay is one that we at least have to keep an eye on to see, is this a one-week stumble like we saw a year ago? Or could this team be in trouble moving forward? That's going to be an interesting one for me. So those are a couple of the takeaways I had from week one.
Yeah, man, that obviously I, tuned into the Vikings game a little bit. And you do sometimes feel like in games, I mean, that pass was beautiful. And if he catches that and takes it to the house and now it's 7-7 right off the bat, I wonder if that game goes differently. I mean, I was happy with how Minnesota looked, especially defensively, because that's such a big question mark and they looked all right. But yeah, I think it is definitely a question mark on Green Bay. It'll be interesting to watch. So D, what about you? Anything stick out for you today?
A lot of things actually. Yeah. So first, should we talk about the Niners? Like, I didn't expect that from the Niners, didn't expect that weather, but Trey Lance, is that the answer right now? I'm not too sure what's happening. And look, you can't read too much into the game, or you could. You can't read too because it was pouring rain, right? But as a person that had money on the Niners, and I've got a Bears team total or Bears win total under, wasn't really expecting that one. So that's a team to look out for. And so how about those Steelers too? Steelers, great call by Yanni on the +6.
Yep.
It got to +7.5 at FanDuel before the kickoff, which I thought was way too many points.
Yanni saw those 5 turnovers coming, man. He saw
Maybe not that, but we did say when we broke down that game, though, I mean, it went pretty much like we thought it would. I think that, unfortunately, though, if you're a Steelers fan, that's going to be the high of your season, in my opinion.
That's what I was about to say, is that could be the highlight of the season, and they barely got it done, and they were not making their kicks, everything like that. I expected the Bengals to come out a little bit, not flat, but like you have a quarterback that he had his appendix out, right? Joe Burrow, about like a few weeks ago. He's had a couple of injuries, And I expected them to come out a little bit flat, expected them to win the game, but that Steelers line at +7.5, I thought was way too much before kickoff. So that was very interesting. The Eagles, I'm sure that we'll talk about them. Good win, but the defense, and I'm sure that they'll shore that up. They let the Lions back in many times in that game, and they had leads. I think their biggest lead, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, I think they had a 17-point lead in that game. Couldn't really, get everything home in terms of the cover, hit the team total. And last thing that I'll point out is that as long as the Jets don't have a quarterback, and I don't think Flacco's the answer, obviously, but I'm not sure that Zach Wilson is either. Team total unders are a possibility. They're an ugly team. That first half under hit, they just look really pathetic. So that's a team to maybe target week after week right now.
If I can piggyback on that, D, I think one really interesting thing to point out, and this is nothing new in the NFL, but what we're seeing is teams with strong offensive lines can find a way to get this thing done. The teams that are continuing to struggle have weaker offensive lines. And I think when you look at the Jets, they have some weapons now. It's not that they're completely void of talent on the offense, but like you said, you have a guy like Flacco, and they had two unfortunate injuries with Mekhi Becton and now Dwayne Brown, who's filling in for him. That offensive line, I mean, Flacco was under duress, and a guy like that, if he's under pressure, it's game over. So I think you're right. I think that's an absolute one that if you look at a team that can get after the quarterback, that's going to be a tough one to pass. You're right.
2 for 14 on third down does not help either. 2 for 14 is an ugly stat, and you're not going to win too many NFL games. Yeah.
No, for sure. Well, like we said before, we could spend an hour talking about all the stuff we saw today, but since we're here to maybe make some money by getting ahead of the lines, let's shift gears and look ahead to some of these games next week. And where I want to start, and D, I'll start with you, is the game that's had the most line movement from the open. It's still just 1.5 points, but Tampa Bay going to New Orleans next week, where we know that they have struggled at times. Open at 4.5. Now it's at -2.5, and the total is 46.5. What are your thoughts on those lines?
First thought is that I wish I would have bet the Saints already. We talked about it in preseason, and I was like, you know what? I'm looking at this one. I don't want to fade Tom Brady. I didn't fade Tom Brady yet, but now at 2.5, I don't think that there's a lot of value. I mean, let's see what the Bucs look like tonight, right? But as long as the Bucs look like the Bucs, I'm not going to touch that 2.5. At 46.5, I lean over, to be honest. But let's see what that Saints D can give us. They own the Bucs, right? I need to watch some more of that Saints game. It seems like it was a pretty odd one, and they pulled that out today, but they had to have a massive comeback. So they allowed a lot of yards to the Falcons. They allowed, was it like 400 some yards, which I don't think that everybody expected from the Falcons led by Mariota, right? Yeah. So at this point, I'm thinking there's not much that I'm going to do with it. If this comes back to a 3, if Tampa looks really good tonight, you can give me 3 for sure. Let's take a look at the money line also, because I think that you guys put some money either on +3, 3.5.
I think Yanni has I took money line at +160. I think it's +145 now.
It's not bad. Not bad.
Yeah. Yanni, I think you did get some action on this already. So what are you thinking?
Well, I locked in the +3 when it was there, and I actually had to pay a little extra juice. I want to say it was -120. Okay. But I figured at 3 because of the history of that, and I think some uncertainty with Tampa. It seemed like the right play. Now, I will tell you the one thing that concerned me a little bit. It was nice the Saints battled back and won. I mean, I think that speaks volumes of where their offense can be. But we talked about it briefly going in. That defense isn't nearly as deep as it used to be. I mean, they used to be able to get after the quarterback. They had a nice rotation on their defensive line, and they really don't have that anymore. And I think that showed up today a little bit. I mean, Cordero Patterson was having a field day against that defense. And, even when they knew it was coming, they couldn't stop him. So you wonder how much of an impact in a game like that that'll have. Part of the reason they've been so successful against Tampa is they've been in Brady's grill, and they've always been able to stop the run, and then they've been in Brady's grill. If they can continue to do that, I think they'll be fine. But the question is, can they do that, or will Tampa be able to maybe block a little better against what's maybe not as strong of a front four in New Orleans there?
Yeah, I'm interested to see if New Orleans can make some adjustments on offense, even though their offense was okay today. They mixed in Taysom Hill a little bit. I think in previous years, it's worked well when Taysom Hill isn't the main guy, but gets mixed in here and there. And he gave them a spark a couple times when they needed it. I think if they can keep Winston clean, he made a couple questionable throws today, but Michael Thomas looked great. I think Olave, which was a huge benefit for them with like 2 touchdowns, I think he had today. Olave is going to be good. So I agree that I do think that this offense has a lot of potential as long as that line can hold up. And we are going to need to see about the defense. Like if they can't get pressure on Brady, that's a question mark, I think. But
could be a really long day. And then in that case,
you
have to look at like a Tampa team total on the over. I mean, Saints today, Landry 114, really good. To your point, 0 turnovers for Winston. Hill had 81 on the ground. Solid effort. They gave up 5.9 yards per play. That's going to need to get better. And they gave up 400-something yards. So they got the win, but it didn't exactly look pretty.
Right. What do you guys think on the total? So 46.5, I'll throw it out just because when I did my numbers, and I don't like bet just based off my numbers, those are a starting point for me. But the number I ended up with here was 49.5. So I'm a decent amount over this. But what do you guys think about that total at 46.5?
I'll let Yanni go first. Yeah, go ahead.
I would just say on my end, it's a no bet for me. And I say that because I think you're right. I think that this game, for what we just mentioned with the Saints defense and potentially, the Bucs defense, I think these teams will score on each other. However, when we look back and we see the measly efforts that Tampa's put up against New Orleans the last couple of years with, they had a 9-pointer in there. I think they had 13, now all of a sudden that number seems really high. So for me, it's a pass. I'm with you. I think this one becomes higher scoring, but I think there's too much history there it scares me off it.
D, anything else from you on that?
Probably a pass for me also. I think that I would lean towards the over, but because of what we've seen in years past, I don't want to overreact to 1 week. I know the Saints D didn't look good, and we don't expect the Saints D to be as good as like 2 to 3 years back. I don't want to overreact. I agree with you, Tasty. I lean over, and if anybody wants to bet the over, I'm not going to blame you, man.
Yeah. All right, well, let's go on to another one. One team that was in a close game today and one that wasn't, and that's Arizona going to Las Vegas next week. This line opened at the Raiders -3.5 and has been at 2.5 for a little while now. It's still at 2.5 at the moment, and the over/under is at 50.5. Yanni, kick us off on this one. What do you think about those?
I got to tell you, I really like the over in this game. And I think the beauty of doing a show this early is if you're going to bet overs, you want to do it now because more than likely that number is going to go. And since we're sitting just below that key number of 51, I think if you want to bet this over, now's the time to do it. I think, first of all, that Arizona defense is really bad. And I realized they were going up against the Chiefs. And I mean, there's no harm in getting destroyed by that offense. But I just think overall that defense is what it is. And I also know J.J. Watt didn't play today. He'll give him a little bit of, help there. But I think that Raiders team is going to be able to score. There's no question in my mind. And on the flip side, I do think Arizona has enough on offense. They put some things together today as well at times. And I don't love the Raiders defense. I think it's okay. So I think when you look at that, this game to me has more of a mid-50s, maybe even high 50s feel. So if you can get, under that key number of 51 and bet the over, that's what I'm doing there. As far as the side goes, I would take the home team here. I would take the Raiders. I think that, there's a couple things I point at. Number one, I'm almost always going to lean AFC because I think the AFC is a superior conference. So I think there's a little bit of difference there. But, for the reasons I mentioned there, it's just hard for this Cardinals team to stop people. So I think that I would lean towards Raiders if you can get that under that field goal number, but definitely like the over total over 50.5.
D, what do you think?
Shopping around, I agree as well. I'm looking for over prices right now to bet the over. I do like the over. I think the Cardinals might have one of the worst Ds in the league. I mean, they're just devoid of talent. You saw that today. We know that the Chiefs are good, right? But, I mean, come on, man. Like, you had 6 months of game plan for this one, and they gave up, a 40 spot? So it's at 51.5 right now at FanDuel. So that's ticking up. Tasty, I think you said about a half an hour ago it was
50.5. Let me see.
50.5. It's now 51.5 shop. But I mean,
So this is one that's wide right now
Is
because
it?
like
Okay.
I'm looking at bed stamp, and at least according to this, which maybe it's not updated yet, but
Yeah, let's see.
50.5 at WinBet, 52 at DraftKings.
It's moving. It's moving. Shop it. It says, and I'm not sure if this app is updated. Bet Rivers 51, Will Hill 51, 51 and a half at FanDuel. 51's a key number. I still like it to the over, but it's a game that, hey, like if it's above 51 and a half, if we think that this game has potential to go higher in the 50s, and I think it does, you can take a look at some alt prices. Don't have it in front of me, but for a game like that, it's already at 51 and a half. You might not get too good of a line. And I agree with Yanni also that if I'm going to bet anything, I want Raiders in this case. They're at home. I think that's a good spot. Didn't really impress today, but they're playing a good Chargers team. Let Carr get another week with Adams. It's at 3.5. If I could get a 3 somewhere, then I think I'd bet Raiders actually at 3.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I think you can get 2.5s.
Can you right now? Let's see.
Well,
let's see.
you'd have to see if they're up again. So Bet Rivers.
I've got to get my shit
Barstool,
together a little bit more.
But like I had Bet Rivers pulled up. Not that we need to get too off on this, but and they don't have it listed. Like it has it on BetStamp, but it doesn't have it on the app right now. So they may be in the process of moving it. Honestly,
3.5 at FanDuel right now, -106. Raiders at the money line -180. So shop it. But if this for some reason comes back, and I wouldn't think that it would with how bad the Cardinals look today, then I'd take the Raiders.
Yeah. So I'm with you guys. I did bet the Raiders at 2.5 yesterday. Actually, and I agree about the AFC thing, about being at home and looking at the game today. So total transparency, I got to watch on Red Zone. I saw like 5 plays from the Chargers Raiders game, so not a game that I saw.
I didn't see a lot of it either. I had the U.S. Open on also. I've got some.
There you go. So
I got some cash on Alcaraz.
You go.
Yeah,
but I mean, they had 3 turnovers today. It was 3-1 in the turnover battle. So we think that the Chargers are a really good team, right? And they fought the Chargers hard all the way to the end with a -2 in turnover margin away from home. So I think ahead of the season, I was more down on the Raiders. I mean, I still thought they would be good, but maybe a little more down on the Raiders. From what I see, I think it's an impressive week 1, even though they came away with a loss. So I definitely like that Raiders side in this game. And I agree, man, if you can get the 51 anywhere before it moves over 51, that's a nice look for the over, I think.
Yeah, I'm currently swiping through apps trying to see if I can
to find it.
Yeah, it wasn't an awful loss, right? Like it didn't look great early. They lost by 5. They put up 5.7 yards per play, better than the Chargers 5.5. Do love to look at the yards per play. As you guys know, 5 for 11 on third down is not bad for the Raiders either. And like you said, it's on the road. Sometimes those Chargers home games, I feel like they're not home games. They need to go to a silent count because all of the away teams fans kind of raid in there. I didn't see in terms of, who the home crowd was for there, but Raiders.
They said it was 50-50, but I tend to believe there's more silver and black in there.
Yeah, it was probably 65-35 at best, Raiders.
Yep. All right. Well, sounds like we're kind of on the same page with that one. Let's go to another one. And when we were talking beforehand, Yanni made some interesting points on this one just after the weird stuff that we saw today. So next week, Chicago goes to Lambeau Field. Chicago, a team, like we've said, that we thought would be terrible and may very well be terrible, actually.
Could be.
Going to Green Bay, who had a rough day today against Minnesota, but the line opened at Green Bay -8.5, and it's actually moved up to 9.5 now, rather than going the other way. Total at 45.5 in this one. D, I'll start with you here. Do you have thoughts on that line?
It's 8.5 now. It's 8.5 at FanDuel.
It's 9 is it 8.5 at FanDuel?
It's 8.5 at FanDuel right now. I'd say for me, I don't know if I'm going to do anything. You could put the Packers into a teaser if you really wanted to. It's got an over under 44.5. Packers in a tease, I think, is where I'd go. I would think that a lot of times I do try to look at overreaction spots of, okay, Chicago over impressed. I don't think that's really indicative in the spread. Packers definitely under impressed. So back the Packers in that standpoint. Packers at 8.5. I like it. Chicago didn't see much of the game other than it was sloppy. Everybody had just a bunch of dirt and mud on their asses, and it was just a mess, right? Trey Lance didn't look good, but Fields, guys, is not the answer. Rodgers doesn't want to go down and lose 2 in a row. They're back at home at Lambeau. I doubt that the Packers are going to look as bad as they did today. They just didn't convert. I like the Packers in a tease, just need to find the other teaser leg.
We should do that now. Real quick, Yanni, before I throw it to you. So FanDuel is the only place that still has it for 8.5. Everyone else is 9.5, and there's even 10s out there already right now. So
okay, so then
Yanni,
maybe I should
Yanni,
take that 8.5.
Yeah, what do you think, man?
Well, when you had said 9.5, my first thought was the books wanted to get away from a teaser with Green Bay there, which may be what we're looking at here. If you can get that 8.5, if you can get FanDuel, that's an instant tease for me. I think there's no way Green Bay loses that game next week. Can they win by 10? I don't know. But do they lose that game? I don't think so. So that's an instant tease for me. You can tease them with the Buffalo Bills. They're 7.5 with the Titans. That gets you to them basically just needing a home win at Monday night at home. So you can tease that. You can tease the Bengals up. They're at +2.5 against Dallas. I think that they'll rebound and get a little more on track, and I don't see them getting blown out. So there's a couple teaser options there. But it is interesting how, as bad as the Packers look, that number went from 8.5 to 9.5 or 10. It's just, I think it's indicative that the books are also saying that they're a little bit afraid of the overreaction there, right? That maybe they think that people are going to overreact with the Green Bay Packers. I don't know. But I think, again, maybe they're getting off of that teaser spot by moving them to 9.5 there.
Yeah, that does seem like it could be what they're doing. So, Chicago, like you were saying, D, I wasn't impressed by Fields today. I mean, some of the big plays they had were just broken plays where they got kind of lucky. The one deep pass down the field, he had to run around for 12 seconds before he threw the ball. So it's not like they had some great offense that was on schedule and doing fantastic. So,
one other angle here, and I don't know if you can find it because I don't have it up here where I'm looking. It'll be a low number, but this is a good spot for a Chicago Bears team total under. I think that they're going to go into a rough environment there. The Packers defense was kind of handled today by Minnesota, but they're going to think they died and went to heaven, because obviously when you look at the Bears' weapons compared to Justin Jefferson and Thielen and Cook and those guys, it's a totally different story. I think that this is a game where Green Bay is going to hold this team to 10 points, and it could get ugly. So depending upon what that number is, if by any chance it gets over 17.5, which I don't think it would, but if it does hit 17.5, I think you absolutely pound the under. If it's more of a 16.5 or 14.5, then you may want to debate that. But I think Chicago struggles mightily to score in this game. The question is, will Green Bay score? And I don't know the answer to that yet either, because like I said, after today, it's hard to say.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And so real quick, teasers, you can tease the Niners at -8.5 right now with the Packers. So you could tease that down. Shopping around though as well then, Yanni, because you said that the Bills were at 7.5. I think you said FanDuel's posting at 9.5. So if you have 7.5s out there, tease it now, tease that down now. But I think Packers, Bills, Niners are all teasable there. Very teasable.
Yeah, so Buffalo, at least what's listed, again, wide right here. So Betway, which I don't even have, says 7.5. Yeah. I don't know if that's true, but Bet Rivers 8.5, FanDuel 9.5. So yeah, you got to just shop it around. One other one that I'll throw out there, a game that I haven't bet or anything, but that potentially could be teasable, is the Rams. I think the Rams are going to rebound too after playing Buffalo last week. I think they're better than what they showed. They're at home again. And so that's another game with the Falcons coming in where I do like the Rams quite a bit. I think it's 10.5 right now. So you can at least get it under the 7, if you would want to tease that one too. But I think those are all good options. Buffalo, Cincinnati, Rams. And what was the other one you said, D? Did you say another team?
Buffalo, Niners, and Packers.
Oh, the Niners. Yeah.
It's the Niners playing the Seahawks, and let's see what the Seahawks look like. I'm not going to take too much from that Niners game today. They're back at home. If they look bad next week and if they don't cover that tease and lose, then there's problems in San Francisco, obviously.
If they lose next week, we're going to see Garoppolo. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, if they don't win that one, then I think Jimmy G is back, and that's why they kept him, right, guys? I mean, they gave him $7 million, and I don't think Jimmy G really wanted to go elsewhere. He's like, you know what? Give me the money. I'll stay here. I fit the system. And maybe Trey Lance gives me an opportunity. And Trey Lance is 4 bad quarters away from them seriously considering about going back to Jimmy G.
Agreed, because it was bad today. All right, well, here's the next one I want to ask you guys about. So I had Indianapolis in a teaser today. They came out looking horrific.
Dude,
Yanni,
what the hell was that?
They did make a big comeback, right? I mean, they did get it back to tied, and then they finished it tied. So they didn't do anything once it got to overtime. So we talked about this week on the Wager Raider podcast about the Colts starting slowly in the season. Well, next week they go to Jacksonville, who is a team that they struggled with last year. But this line opened at Indianapolis -5.5. It went down to 4, and maybe that's still out there. But what I saw was -4.5 now, and total of 45.5. I'll just say on this one, I definitely am interested in Indy here. Like, I think going, and even though they're away from home again, and Jacksonville looked okay, they kicked a ton of field goals today, so there was some possibility of scoring more points than they did if they had been able to punch it in the end zone more. But what I saw that I really didn't like with Jacksonville is Trevor Lawrence was off target with so many throws. Like, even when his receivers were catching it, they were making great catches on easy throws to complete those passes. So I didn't think he looked good. And I think that's actually pretty concerning for Jacksonville. I mean, it is just one game into this season. I think Indianapolis is going to settle down a little bit and be more of the solid team we think they'll be. And so at 4.5, I actually bet them at -4. That's another bet that I already made. But Yanni, what do you think about Indianapolis going to Jacksonville next week? And the line.
I like the path that you're on in the sense that I think you guys know I'm very high on the Colts. A little disappointed with the tie today because I do have their season win total over, and a tie obviously does not help me there. So not happy about that. And look, I mean, they shanked a 39-yard field goal in overtime that would have won it with a pretty reliable kicker, but it happens. I mean, we saw a lot of that today. I am worried, just like with that Saints and Tampa game, though. I'm worried about the history. This Indy team, for whatever reason, just can't seem to handle the Jaguars, and I don't know why. I know when this were the case years ago, they would sometimes get out physicaled, but that's not really the case now. So I'm not sure why exactly they can't seem to get them. I'm with you on the sense that I think there's huge value with the Colts going into week 2, because I think people are probably looking and saying, oh man, they went to Houston, they look terrible. But if they were playing most other teams, I would probably want to jump on them here. I just can't do it against the Jags. And you're right about Trevor Lawrence. He didn't look great overall, but I think there's also something to be said about, he's a young quarterback, basically a brand new receiving core out there, and they haven't really played together. So I think you got to give them a little time to gel there. I can't do it on the road. I just can't do it here. So for me, it's a pass.
All right, D, what do you think, man?
Tasty, I want to bet the Colts. To Yanni's point, I don't think the Colts have beaten the Jaguars since Truman was president. It's been a long time. It's been since 2014, I think, actually. I like the overreaction spot in terms of Colts. I'm staring at Colts -4 right now. I don't know how the Colts lost this game. They put up 517 total yards today, guys. 33 first downs. They outgained the Texans almost 2-1. It reminds me of what the Colts did in week 1 last year, where they went to, or no, did they host Jacksonville? I think it was.
Yep.
And then they outscored them in terms of yards 2-1 as well. They lost the game. And here we are again. The Colts are doing this again. If they can't right the ship, you got to look at Frank Reich at some point also. You need to convert here. I don't know what their red zone conversion rate was. Actually, I can pull that up. 2 for 5 isn't bad either. But 20 total points on 517 total yards is not going to get it done. Tasty, since you're on the -4, I'll write it with you. Just as a good luck bet to say that the Colts are going to get this done and beat the Jaguars for the first time down there in almost a decade. I love the overreaction spot because I do think that a fair price was where it was before. And at 4, great. If it were 3, awesome, but I don't think we get the 3. 4, just give it to me. I mean, 517 yards. If you do that week in and week out, I think we're cashing the win total tickets. But as Yanni said, we have what, over 9.5, and a tie doesn't do much for us. So then that kind of burns my ass. But I'll ride the 4 here. And how high is the over and under on this game too? Just curious.
Let me see. I had it. It's 45 and a half.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right in the middle of the 40s.
It's probably about right. But if the Colts can convert, like, I mean, with 517 yards and 33 first downs, like if you just told me that, I'd say, okay, they probably put up a 35 spot, right? Not 20 in 5 quarters, essentially. 20 points in 5 quarters. Crazy.
I will say too, like I feel like the Colts haven't beat Jacksonville in forever either, but they've actually won 2 out of the last 3 against Jacksonville. I think that loss was
Jacksonville.
Oh, maybe not at Jacksonville.
Yeah, no. Yeah. It's just that they can't go down there and win. I'm not sure. They just
at
hate
Jacksonville. Yeah. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. 7 in a row at Jacksonville lost. Okay, I gotcha. Yeah.
Yep.
Great call.
Yep. I'm not sure if there's like a good strip club in Jacksonville that they go to. Probably not. Tampa has all the strip clubs. Right?
Like, well,
so the Tampa has Mons Venus. I don't want to get Yanni in trouble here, but nothing in Jacksonville. I just can't place a finger on it. Like they've been the better team in a lot of those spots too. Colts, I'm saying.
Yep. All right. Well, we're getting close to the end here. Let me just kind of throw it open. Yanni, are there any other lines that just stick out to you where they're at right now that you think have the potential to move?
Yeah, I think for me, there's a couple that I really like here, and same game actually. It's Washington and Detroit next week, and first of all, if you want to bet overs, generally the sooner you do that, the better off you're going to be. And I love the over in this one. If it's sitting at 44.5, I think obviously up to 46.5, you could potentially look at playing this. I said it going into the season. I think this Lions defense is going to score some points this year. They scored some points today. I don't like that Commanders defense. I think that they're at best average. So I think that Detroit's going to put some points up there. We did see with Carson Wentz, he's kind of the modern day Jameis Winston of a few years ago, right? I mean, he slung it around today, which was, I guess, encouraging maybe if you're a Washington fan. He did throw for a lot of yards. He did throw 4 touchdowns, but he also threw a couple of bad picks. So I think that that's going to be kind of what we're going to get with him. And, kind of like we said, Detroit offense good, defense maybe not so good. So I like the over in this one. I think this game gets into the 50s. I think you could potentially have both teams, knocking on the door of the low 30s there. I really like the over here. I also think that, you saw the Lions, and yes, they were overmatched at times, but they kept it close for the most part with Philly today, who I think is a far superior team to Washington. So I think when you look at that at basically a pick'em game, I think you got to look at that and say that this team, when you look at that schedule, the Lions are going to win some games. This is one that you circle if you're the Lions and you're saying we're winning this game. So I like both the Lions and a pick'em there, and I really like the over in this spot.
Yeah, I'll just say quick, like I like what you're saying about the over, but I really like the Lions here too. I actually thought that the Lions looked decent today. This was one of the spots that stood out to me, was that I thought their offensive line looked really good. And I think we knew that, but I think Philly's defensive line is decent. And I thought they controlled the line a lot of the game. And that was what I think allowed them to stay in it and even come back some. So I really like the Lions at home. I think that unit is strong, and that's gonna help them in this game. And I don't trust Carson Wentz ever. So, D, any thoughts on
hard to trust
one from you?
It's really hard to trust them. I am looking at the Lions right now. They're at -1.5 at FanDuel. I like the Lions. I agree with everything that you've said. I'm not going to back the Commanders on the road here. I was impressed with what the Lions showed me today. I mean, pretty damn good crowd. They stayed in that game. They had a shot in that game, covered the spread, which I know doesn't mean a lot for all of the Lions fans, but they were in that game. I like the over at 47.5. I think that goes up. I like the Lions. I'm even kind of interested in taking that at a little bit. So if you want to sell some points and go to -3 just to cover the 3 to get you a plus line on that, they're— on the money line. Don't hate that at all. I think that the Lions are going to be not a force in the league this year, but a team that you got to take seriously, and they're a contender to get a 7 seed or even higher, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I like it, man. D, any last thoughts on any lines that stuck out to you? Kind of first look here.
What I think is interesting, I want to see what the Cowboys do tonight. The Bengals are slight underdogs at Dallas. I'm not doing anything with it right now. If the Cowboys offensive line looks like trash and they're struggling to move the ball, I could be interested in putting a money line on the Bengals. I'm seeing plus 114 actually. I don't think that the Bengals go 0-2. I think that they had some rust today. They started to put it together a little bit late, just had some drop passes, everything like that. So I'm taking a look at that, but no action on that right now. Let's see what Dallas does. I did bet the Eagles at -2.5 yesterday against the Vikings. That's a Monday Night Football game in South Philly next week. Tough place to play. I mean, but Justin Jefferson's really good. Now, I don't think, yeah, so like it's hard to go against that. Don't hate the over in that game either. Let's see what the weather looks like. It's not in a dome, anything like that. So I have that, and I'm just taking a look at the board also. I agree with you also that taking the Rams, trying to buy low on the Rams at -10.5, if it could come down to 10, that would be awesome. But Rams, I do like that. What gives me a little bit of pause is that the Falcons actually over impressed in terms of their offense today. And I don't know if that's an element of, okay, the Saints D has regressed, or the Falcons actually have an offense that's going to get them over their total of, 4.5 wins. So take a look at that one as well.
Yeah, man, sounds good to me. You named the one that I was going to bring up, and I'm actually sorry. I'm just betting this right now before it goes up anymore.
Yeah, that's what you got to do right now. Is just try to multitask, pick off lines,
totally,
before they move more, man.
I agree with you on the Eagles and the Vikings. So as a Vikings fan, I was very encouraged by the game today. It would be hard not to be.
Totally.
I think that offense is going to look a lot better with O'Connell there. So overall, like, I'm really high, and I think the game with Philly will be a good one. I doubt they get absolutely destroyed, but I do think they were playing at home today. They have to go to Philly next week. I think that Philly is really good on both sides of the ball. Like we said earlier, the Packers, even if they end up being good, it's a lot of new receivers and stuff, and so it wouldn't be surprising for today to have been a little bit of a rough go for them. So yeah, I think under 3 for Philly. I just took it at 2.5 because I'm seeing 3s out there now. So
it's probably tough for you to do to fade your home team, right? Like it's always
not really,
tough
man.
Okay, good.
It's harder for me to take them because then I feel like in some weird way, if they lose, it was my fault.
Yeah, but then you lose twice because they lose the game.
I lose
you lose
twice.
the bet. You're
this
like,
way I win once. Either way, you know.
Right.
Emotional hedge, man. Emotional hedge.
Love the emotional hedges.
Exactly.
Love them.
All right. On the way out here, D, any thoughts on the game tonight?
I want to see what Dallas does. I came on your show last week and took Dallas at plus, what was it, 110? I don't like that pick as much anymore. I just took Dallas because I had to have a plus line.
I know. I forced you into it. It's my bad.
It's pretty interesting. Like as the week goes on, it's like I kind of like the Panthers at first. And then today I said, you know what? I like the Browns in this case. And I was kind of flip-flopping. I'm really interested to see what happens in this game. I think that we get some points. But it wouldn't shock me if it's kind of like a stumble out of the gate. Brady missed, a couple weeks in preseason. Cowboys, is Jason Peters playing? Like, that's a bad offensive line. Like, that could potentially be a really bad offensive line. So, depending what the first half under is on, which we should check that right quick, guys. I don't hate a first half under in these primetime spots because it takes a little bit of time to get going. I'm trying to pull it up here. Second half, first half. It is at 24.5. Don't hate it at 24 or less. I kind of wish it was 26.5. If there's an early score, I'm going to take the first half under and hope for like a 27-28.
It's a good way to look at it. Yanni, any last thoughts from you on tonight?
No, I like that first half to under thought but I would just say for me, this is a research game. I want to see how both teams perform here. As you guys know, I'm not high at all on Dallas. We'll see, but obviously want to see kind of some of those question marks with Tampa as well. Their offensive line, how Brady's going to look, how much can Godwin give them, that kind of a thing. So just a lot of interesting stuff. If you put a gun to my head, I would lay the points with Tampa here, and I would go with Brady, but the great thing is you don't have to bet every game. So for me, it's a no bet. I want to learn.
Yeah, sounds good to me, man. I had said I already took Tampa Bay at -125, which it went to like -135 or something. It's back to -125 now. So
oh, really? Got some late money coming in on Dallas right now?
I guess so.
Okay.
So I'm on that. I need to go look at what it's at again. I had thought earlier about betting Tony Pollard over on receiving yards for tonight, but honestly, I probably won't get there because I pulled up BetMGM and they don't even have it. So I might have time to go find it before the game starts. But it's
probably just a wait and see game. A lot of research. I'm interested to see what happens.
So so we'll see what happens with that. All right, guys. Well, it's about time for kickoff. So let's get out of here. I know we always throw it out at Yanni Bet on the screen there, at the Bet Crushers, and then at Sir Wager Rager for D Nice, and at what's the Wager Rager one? Just
Wager_Rager.
Wager_Rager.
If you type in Wager Rager, something should come up.
It'll come up, exactly.
Something will come up.
Yep. Last thing I'll say, guys, is if you're watching this, would really appreciate if you just give it a like, subscribe to the channel so you see new stuff that's coming out, and we will be back for another Best Bets show in a few days. All right. Have a good night, fellas, and I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.